In this video, we're going to be doing a deep dive and breaking down the Convocation Affiliation for Marvel Crisis Protocol. Hey guys, Rich from Rich Big Gaming. Hope everyone is doing fantastically well. Happy Monday and welcome to this another MCP video and the latest in our brand new series, not so brand new anymore, where we're doing a deep dive and breaking down each and every affiliation in the game. We're going through from A all the way through to Z. Yes, it is Z and not Z. And we are currently on C. We broke down Cabal in the last video, and in this video we're going to be taking a look at Convocation. So without further ado, let's jump in, and we're going to be starting from a very different place because Convocation are somewhat unique in terms of the makeup of the affiliation itself and how it works, because Convocation doesn't have a single leader in the game. Instead, they have a tactics card, and you can see here we've got a tactics card called the Bar with No Doors. So if this card is included in your roster and your squad is using the Convocation affiliation, you may add this card to your squad in addition to your normal allotment of tactics cards. Now, it's worth noting this part and how it works. So when you're building your roster, the Bar with No Doors, and by the way, this is a double-sided card, so it only takes up one slot. So when you're putting your 10 tactics cards together, this will take up one of your 10 tactics cards. But when you're building your squad, you can have this plus then your normal allotment of 5 cards. So it works very, very differently to how the other tactics card based leadership works. So whether it's like Corvus, whether it's Namor, whoever it may be, where they all use one of your 5, the opportunity cost to use this is much, much less because it only takes up one of your 10, not one of your 5 when you're building your squad. So when you would normally pick an active leadership ability, choose a Convocation character to play this card and place it with one of the face-up sides in your play area. So that is the other thing. So most of, if not all, the other tactics cards based leaderships, easy for me to say, they are often only usable by a set or a set number of characters. Corvus Glaive for Black Order, for example, it has to be Corvus Glaive. I think the Shield one can be used by either Namor or Steve Rogers. You've got the, I'm trying to think which other ones are out there. The New Mutants one can be used only by Illyana Rasputin, I think, whereas this one can be used by any Convocation character. So very, very different. You get a lot of flexibility when you're building Convocation in terms of how your leadership works, but also in terms of who is going to be your leader. So when you've got this leadership active as well, the character that played this card, so is your leader, they now become the leader. And if they were to be taken out of the game, if they were, if they were KO'd, you would lose this leadership in the same way that you lose any other leadership. It doesn't remain. But they may pay 1 power during the power phase to flip this card to the other side. So you're effectively getting 2 leaderships that you can switch between during the power phase. So let's take a look then at the 2 that we have. So starting off, we've got the Moons of Munapor. When an allied character makes a mystic attack against a character without an activated token, it may re-roll one of its attack dice. And when an allied character without an activated token makes a defense roll, it may re-roll one of its defense dice. Now, notice that it has to be a Convocation character who plays this card, but in the leadership, just like most of the leaderships, it doesn't dictate that this only works for Convocation characters. So it will work for any splash characters that we bring along. So essentially, this is a re-roll one. You have to be making mystic attacks and you have to be targeting people without an activated token to get the benefit. And then the other way around is if you don't have an activated token, when they make a defense roll, you get to re-roll one die. This side of it is fine, but I don't think, for me personally, I don't think it's the better side. The other side, and probably the side that you want to start on and probably stay on for the majority of the game, is Circle of the Cosmos. When an allied character suffers damage from an enemy effect, so not just an attack, but any enemy effect. So that's going to be anything from superpowers, throws, it's going to be tricks and traps, and it's going to be attacks. The only things this doesn't include is something like a bleed. That's classed as a neutral effect. So after it's all resolved, you may place this character within one of its current position, but a character may only be placed by this leadership ability once per turn. So you attack XYZ character, you do a damage to them, and then after it's resolved, they get to place themselves within one. Now, why is that nice? Well, it can move you outside of range to be able to stop that second attack coming in. Or if it had a push on there and you've got a big enough base, there is the opportunity that you can get back onto a point. Or you maybe want to get into a... maybe you've got martial artist or something like that where you're now counting blanks, or you've got something reactive within a certain range. So really nice. I like this side of the leadership card. I think definitely in the early parts of the game, it's probably what you want to start with, especially when you're going up and picking extracts up and things like that. And just being able to get that placement to either get you further away from your opponent or get you closer to a point can be really, really nice. Now, as we've started with one of the Convocation tactics cards, we are going to jump in and change things around a little bit because they have a lot of tactics cards to choose from. So we're going to take a look at each of the other tactics cards in turn. I don't know why I can't talk today. And I'm going to give you my opinion on them and whether or not I think they are, you know, an absolute take, they're okay, or kind of avoid. So let's start off then. We've got Astral Ring. At the start of a Convocation character's activation, it may spend 2 power to play this card. Place a projection token within 3 of this character. When measuring ranges of this character's attacks or superpowers, measure from the projection token instead. This character does not contest objective tokens normally. Instead, the projection token contests all objectives as if this were the character. While the projection token is in play, the character cannot be advanced or placed. Now that is, cannot advance or be placed. So that is both you trying to move your own character or your opponent trying to advance them or place them either. And then you remove that during the next cleanup phase. I think this card's fine. I think if you were struggling for a 10th card, then you could potentially consider this. But I think more often than not, being able to move in this game is quite important. There's a lot of places on there. We've already seen how our attacks, when we're being attacked, it lets us place and things like that. Yes, it's a safe contest, you know, if you put this on a point, but if it's a pay to flip, then if your opponent flips it, then it doesn't really do anything and it's not really going to add to it. So yeah, I think it's fine. I think there's better options out there, but as I say, if you were struggling for a 10th card, then this is maybe one that you could look at. Next up, we've got the Bane of Dambalar. This is going to be reactive. After an attack made by an allied Convocation character is resolved, if the attack roll contained 1 or more wild or hit results, it may spend 1 power to play this card. The target character and enemy characters within 2 of it gain the root special condition. This is quite nice. You know, for 1 power, being able to dish out, you know, at least 1, maybe 2, maybe sometimes 3 roots. It can be quite nice. And again, that's going to really hamper the bottom half of your opponent's card. Again, I would sit this in the, if you need a 10th card, you know, let's maybe say that you've taken splash characters who don't bring that many tactics cards with them, then I think this is perfectly acceptable and perfectly fine to bring along with you. Next up, we've got the Book of Cagliostro. Choose a convocation character, the chosen character, and 2 other characters within 3 of it may spend 2 power to play this card. Remove the activated token from the chosen character. During the cleanup phase, you may discard 2 Team Tactics cards. If you do, return this card to your available Team Tactics cards. This card may be played again this game. Let's talk about the first part first, in terms of what it does. So we're paying 6 power for 1 character and 2 characters within 3. Now, it doesn't say that they have to be non-dazed, but if they're dazed, they're not going to be able to spend the power. So it's 6 power in total, and we're going to remove an activated token from a character. It's fine. Like, again, there's a lot of upsides to having an activation or an extra activation. There can also be downsides as well, namely losing priority. I would say in most situations, having priority is going to be more beneficial than getting an extra activation. But if it's towards the end of a game and this is kind of a last roll of a dice and you're going to reactivate a strange or something like that, note that this one is only a convocation character, so it's only a convocation character that gets to remove their activated token. Then I think that's fine. Cleanup phase, you may discard 2 Team Tactics cards. Discarding 2 just to be able to use this again isn't normally going to be worth it, but you could find yourself in a position where you've brought a character specific card and you've never had the opportunity to use it before they were taken off the board, so that could work perfectly fine. Again, it's not a card that I would say is stapled to the list, and I don't think it's a card that you really want to be trying to play around too much. Ironbound Books of Shumagorath. This was the linchpin of Convocation for a long time. A Convocation character may spend 2 power during the power phase to play this card. This round, when an enemy targets an allied character with a physical attack, you may choose to change the attack type to Mystic. Why is that important? Well, as you'll see and we'll go through, one of the trends that you see with most of the Convocation characters is that they have very high Mystic defense and fairly poor physical defense, and we'll talk about that being one of their really big issues at the moment. Now, this card used to solve the issue because it used to read, when an allied character is KO'd, after the effect is resolved, you may return this card to your available Team Tactics cards and you can play it again. So what the play used to be was you would take a character that had grunts. Grunts are a non-finite resource. You can keep bringing them back. A lot of grunts you can choose to kill yourself. So you would play our Ironbound Books and then you would murder one of your own grunts if needed and then bring this back. And it meant that you just get to recycle it and use it time and time again. That has gone away. So it now needs to be a non-grunt character, which has lessened how good this card is, but I still think it's a pretty solid card and does, at least for a round, stop some of the issues that Convocation have. And it does mean that inevitably when one of your characters is taken off the board, you do get the opportunity to be able to play this again. Now, again, notice that this is a Convocation character that has to play it, but it's anybody in your team benefit from that, where you get to choose to turn a physical attack into a mystic attack. So can be quite nice, and as I say, works with a lot of the baseline stats that these characters have, but also some of their defensive tech as well. Next up, we've got the Plane of Poldark. Any Convocation character may spend 3 power to play this card. Choose an enemy character. All characters may reroll any number of attack dice when making mystic attacks that target the chosen character this round. I really like this card. It costs 3 power. It is a little bit more limiting in that if you compare it to Dark Rain, right, that's the thing that it's similar with. But what What it has, or what it loses versus Dark Rain, is that they must be mystic attacks. But you'll notice it is everybody in your team. Again, it isn't just restricted to those Convocation characters. So I think this is a really nice card. You're going to have characters on your board with 3 power. It's going to be very, very easy for them to get. And just being able to re-roll any number of attack dice when making mystic attacks is going to be really, really good for these guys. Next up, we've got Orb of Agamatto. You basically spend 3 power, and then characters that are not holding an objective token get to place within 3. We've seen it. It's Rainbow Bridge. It's only going to be Convocation characters. This card is fine. Like, it's fine. It's definitely one that you can take. It's going to be situational. Again, these guys are going to generate quite a bit of power, and they have ways of generating power themselves as well. So I think this card's perfectly fine. If I saw it in a list, I wouldn't be wondering why on earth it was in there. So yeah, I wouldn't say it was stapled, but I definitely think it's a decent enough card to be able to take in your 10. And then lastly, we have got Wand of Watum. So this is going to be a Convocation character may spend 2 power during its activation to play this card. And it's going to be able to choose one of the following effects. So it does 3 different things. This character may use the elemental blast attack listed once this activation. So it's not immediately make it. So that means that it is going to use one of your actions. The elemental blast is a range 5, strength 7. And then on a wild, you give them incinerate, shock, and slow. So it's a pretty decent attack. You may reroll 2 dice in your defense roll for the rest of the round. Fine, like, it's okay. And then this character may use a superpower that is normally limited to once per turn a second time this activation, paying all costs as normal. Now again, notice that this is only for Convocation characters. And yeah, I think it's fine. Again, I would put it in that category of, if you're looking for a 10th card, then this could absolutely be one of them. Just really depends on what you're taking in terms of characters and the tactics cards that they're bringing along with them as well. Okay, so that is the tactics cards out of the way, and you'll see why I wanted to do those first, because there's lots and lots of options for these guys. Now let's take a look at all of the potential leaders for Convocation, because remember, each and every character is a potential leader for you. Starting out, we have got the faithful assistant himself, Wong. Worth noting now, one thing that makes Wong a lot more viable in Convocation, I think, is the Servant to the Sorcerer Supreme. He's had the name changed on that, so it's now Stephen Vincent Strange, which means that he works with either of the Doctor Strangers, which means that if he's within range 3 of a Strange, he's 4s across the board, which is crazy good, Wong also, I really like Wong because he's a bit of a, not a dead activation, but he's an activation where he can impact things on the board, but you're not actually changing the board state, and you're forcing your opponent to make that decision as to, you're playing that game of chess, right? You're forcing your opponent to be the aggressor, come forward and do something. He can also dish out power, which is really nice. It means that he's going to be able to turn on some characters' abilities round 1 that would otherwise be restricted to round 2 onwards. And he can also heal as well. So for one power, he can remove 2 damage or a special condition. It can do this as many times as he wants in a round, but each character can only be affected by it once per round. I really like Wong. I think he is an absolute staple in a Convocation roster. Is he going to make every single game? No, there's going to be situations where you don't take him, but I think when you're building out your squad, you're going to be looking at him as an option. Let's get on to the 3 threats, because we've got 3 options for us. We've got Baron Mordo. Now, Baron Mordo is the first character we're going to talk about that suffers from the lack of physical defense. So he's 2/4/4. Now, why is that a problem? Well, we know that we've got Ironbound Books, which is fine, but very, very susceptible to collision. Really, really susceptible to collision, which always strikes me as being strange, because these guys, you know, you see them in the movies and in the comic books and they're stopping things being thrown towards them and whatever else, but this is the road AMG have gone down, and we're going to see this theme across multiple characters. 6 stamina on his front, which is quite nice. He's going to dish out a lot of conditions, that burning rain with a guaranteed incinerate and poison. And then you can follow that up with a soul barb. Choose an enemy character within 3 of this character with 1 or more of the following special conditions: hex, incinerate, poison, or slow. Choose 1 of these special conditions on that character. Everybody else within 2, or every enemy within 2, gains that special condition. So he's able to take that condition you've dished and push it out to multiple other people. He can also boost attack dice, so they can add 2 dice when they're making an attack. So a little bit like Thanos, but he doesn't get the boost if it's if they're on their injured side. It only costs 2 power, so there is a bit of a kicker to it, which is that they will suffer 1 damage at the end of the attack. So worth noting. I think Baron Mordo is fine, like absolutely fine. He does have the vaulting boots of Valtorr, so after this character is pushed, he may advance short if he spends 2 power, which again just keeps him on a point. Very much a back point holder. I think he's perfectly viable. You may find that there are splash characters that do a slightly better job, but I think Carl, no problem with him whatsoever. Next up is Clea. Clea can kill herself. Descendant of the Faultine. Roll 5 dice. For each fail, you suffer 1. She gets 3 power from it, but she only has 5 stamina. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of Clea, if I'm being perfectly honest. She does have a terrain or enemy character throw, which is few and far between in this affiliation. She's got a gainer, which is range 3 and dishes out a bleed. And then she's got her spender, which is Icy Tendrils of Icthalion. 6 dice, range 4. And then it's got one of these building kind of triggers on there. So a wild, it's going to be a slow, a wild and a hit, it's a stun. And then a crit, wild, hit, block is going to be a stagger. Yeah, it's fine. Obviously, if you get 1, then you get, if you get the stagger, you get them all. So it can be quite nice. She's got a place, so place this character or another character within 3 too. But it costs 3. So she has the problem in that power generation is a problem for her. And the way they've tried to get around that is Descendant of the Faultine. But on a 5 stamina character, if you even take 2 damage, that means you're only 3 damage away from being dazed. And as we've already mentioned, you'll see that 2, 3, 4 stat line very, very susceptible to physical attacks. And when even when Ironbound Bucks is up, still going to be very susceptible to collision damage. So yeah, not a huge fan of her. And I think the fact that she's immune to Incinerate, whilst it's still pretty nice to have that, it does mean that because Demons has gone now, she's lost any sort of playability she did have as a back point holder on Demons. She's probably lost that purely because it's not a thing in the game anymore. Next up, we're going to get Ilyana Rasputin, aka Magic. I really like Magic. First of all, she doesn't suffer from the same very, very low, only 2 physical that a lot of the other members of Convocation do. She brings some different attacks, so she's bringing in energy attack as well as just Mystic, which is again quite nice. Bolts of Oshtur being a gainer, and then Soul Sword being a true builder. And, Strength 5, range 2 with a Pierce is a pretty good builder. And then Dark Child can do a surprising amount of damage because when you're calculating successes, you add the number of failure results both in attack and defense to the roll. So whilst it's only 6 dice, your opponent rolls 1 failure and you roll 1. All of a sudden, you're adding in a couple of extra results. Limbo Step, she may spend between 1 and 3 power, place herself within 1 and 3. I really like these places. any throws, any places where the cost is X, I do really, really like that. And then lastly, when this character is defending against a mystic attack, for each wild in the defense roll, it may change one of the attacker's hit, crits, or wilds to a blank. This character gains 1 power for each die change this way. So you see some really nice synergy with Ironbound Books there, because if we're turning every physical attack into a mystic, not only are we getting an extra dice, but she has this reverse pierce on her that's going to stop that extra damage coming through, and she gains some power from it as well. Let's take a look at 4 threats. Starting out, we've got the Ancient one. Little underwhelming for me is the Ancient one. 235 stat line. She's got some okay attacks. She does have the Martial Artist, meaning that she does have blanks, but even so, she really, really struggles. So when she's defending or dodging, she gets to reroll 2 dice. So, okay, and she gets to count blanks. But unless you roll a crit, the most she's ever going to be able to roll in physical defense is 2, which is really rough for any character. So again, she does suffer from that problem that a lot of these other characters do, to a lesser extent, because she does have rerolls. She does count blanks, at least on attacks within 2. But yeah, still a little rough. And to be perfectly honest with you, I'm not a huge fan of her kit. Yes, she's got a place. She's got the extra power per turn, but not a huge fan of her, to be honest with you. There are much, much better 4 threats, both in and indeed outside of affiliation. The other 4 threat we've got access to is Dr. Voodoo, aka Jericho Drum. And it's fair to say that this guy has been nerfed quite a bit, but I think within Convocation, still perfectly viable as a character. Don't let that 224 stat line put you off, because if we read Spirit of Brother Daniel, while this character has the Brother Daniel token, add 2 dice to all of your defense and dodge rolls, meaning that as a 4 threat, he's 4/4/6, which is absolutely crazy. Also, if he ever rolls a failure, he gains 1 power. So that's going to be for dodges, it's going to be for attacks, it's going to be for defense rolls, or if he's rolling to try and flip a point as well. He's got Fly, Immunity, Hex, Incinerate, which again means that that stat line can't be reduced. Again, I think characters across the board that have immune to Incinerate are less sought after now because of of demons going away, but still nice to have that. But the big thing that he's going to be bringing forward is Possession. X. This character may spend any number of power to use his superpower. Choose an enemy character within 3 of this character with a threat equal to or lower than the amount of power spent to use this superpower. Move the Brother Daniel token to that character. This enemy character drops all objective tokens it is holding. While the character has the Brother Daniel token, it cannot hold objective tokens. Now, this used to read that they couldn't contest anything, which was absolutely brutal. But he does generate power quite nicely. That Spirit Venom, he's got a sap on there, power equal to damage dealt. And remember, if he rolls a fail, he's going to be generating power from that as well. So this is a sort of a pseudo steal, really. And this is what we're going to be leaning into when we're building this Convocation list, is the idea of control and being able to control our opponent and where those objectives are. And Voodoo is he's not necessarily the linchpin behind it, but he's the in-affiliation character that's going to allow us to be able to do this. Just remember though, when you do use that Brother Daniel token, he's going to drop his defensive stat line back down to 224. So you really need to think about when you're using it. Now, he can recall. So if he's targeted by an attack, he can spend 3 power and recall Brother Daniel. That will mean that character now can, pick up or hold objective tokens. and you can get those extra dice. So it's always worth trying to keep 3 power on him, because yeah, 2/2 stat line is pretty darn rough. Now let's take a look at our 5 threats, and we've got 2 options, and it's which Doctor Strange do you want? Now you all know from previous videos I am a big fan of the OG Strange. I really like him, but I think for me in Convocation, Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme is going to be a better option. Why? Well, I think he makes for a good leader. I think he's a character you can give the leadership to. And he is significantly tankier than what you would first presume. Why is that? Well, Mystic Armor of Strange. When this character is defending against an energy or mystic attack, for each wild in the defense roll, it may change one of the attacker's successes to a blank, and you gain a power for each die changed this way. So he's really only susceptible to physical attacks. And I think, you know, that combined with Ironbound Books means that I think he's a pretty good leader choice. Now, the other train of thought is that you go for somebody who is a back point holder, who are going to be out of danger for most of the game. You're going to have to pick and choose depending on what it is you're coming up against. Strange has also got the Scalpel of Strange. Choose this character or a character within 2 and place it within 3. I think this is a little bit high costed, but he does gain 2 additional power per turn. So his power generation is crazy. He also has the Eye of Agamatto, so he's going to be able to reroll failure results, and he gets to reroll all of his attack or defense dice once per attack. Baleful Bolt is a pretty decent attack. Deadly Daggers, whilst it shows physical on there, you get to choose any of them, and it's a range 5 attack for 1 power, which is nice. And then Shining Circle of the Seraphim, Area 2, Strength 7, but after each attack is resolved, remove 1 special condition from this character and each allied character within 2 of it. And then Salve, remove 1 damage from this character and each allied character within 2 of it. So if he does find himself in a position where he's got a couple of people around him, he needs a little bump up in stamina, then you can use this attack. I actually think costing wise, I think it's perfectly fine. I don't think it's too bad, especially as your allied characters don't suffer any damage. So there's lots and lots to think about with Convocation, and there's a few different routes that you can go down. You can really play into that high mystic attack profile and take all of the cards that allow you to do better with that. But I think the problem now with Convocation is Ironbound Books. You may get it off twice in a game, 3 times if you're lucky, or indeed unlucky. And remember now it's, you know, non-grunt characters don't count towards it. So I don't think that is as good a tactic as it used to be. So we're going to lean into something slightly different. So let's jump over to TTS and let's take a look at the roster that I've put together. Okay guys, so here we go. This is the roster that I've put together. Let's start with the Convocation characters. So we have gone with Baron Mordo. We'll talk a little bit about him in a moment. We've got Doctor Strange Sorcerer Supreme, Dr. Voodoo, Magic, and Wong. Now, in my mind, the kind of, you know, we speak about this core. I feel like this, in a lot of situations, will be your core. Now, again, we don't have 15 threat in the game anymore. So from here, if it was something that had a midline extract grab and we had priority, I'd probably lean into something like Namor. And really, I've got 2 different sets of characters here. Ones that are for when we have priority and ones that are for when we don't have priority. So priority sort of based characters when it comes to the splash ones is going to be Namor, it's going to be Lizard, and it's going to be Toad. Namor, obviously, safest, or one of the 3 safest midline extract grabbers in the game. Lizard, because I actually think he is a really good, solid midline extract grab. He brings some throws with him as well. He's got some displacement with his tail whip. But imagine Lizard can double move up to a point. He can pick something up. And then if he is attacked once, unless your opponent gets extremely lucky, even some of the biggest hitters in the game are going to struggle to take Lizard out in one hit. So we're going to be able to then bump back out of the way using that placement from the bar with no doors. And we're going to be able to get him to relative safety. And he's got that healing factor as well. So once he's picked up that point, he can then move back. He can contest the back point. And he's going to be healing that one per turn. And then obviously Toad, a cheap midline extract grab. Maybe we want to go a little bit wider at 16, for example, right? Maybe this is what we want to go at 16, or maybe we want to take Magic in there rather than Lizard, but we would rather take Magic and Toad rather than one character in Namor. Now, what's the other side and what are they for? Well, actually Namor falls into this category as well, but we've got Namor, we've got Rhino, we've got Miles, and we've got Voodoo, who can all, quote unquote, steal objectives. Now, there are some other characters that you could include and put in here as well if you're playing into this. Black Cat is another great example as a 3-threat option. You could either, swap out Lizard, for example, swap out Miles, or you could even swap out Mordo. I would say of all the Convocation characters, Mordo is the one that I am least wedded to. So if there was another 3-threat another splash character that you wanted to take, and you were looking at your list, Mordo is probably the character that I would start with. But obviously Miles has his Venom Blast, which basically forces the character to drop all objective tokens they're holding. Rhino obviously comes with this is a robbery, or this is a rhinobbery, as it's well known, which Rhino brings a few other different things as well. Huge amount of movement. With that gore and with that stampede, he can get around the board very, very quickly. And he also brings, again, the stealing card, and then Namor with his Armies of the Deep. If he chooses to use Swarm of Crabs, he can also force your opponent to drop all asset tokens that they're holding as well. So really interesting list. I think you've got lots and lots of options here. As I mentioned, I feel like if I was playing, this would be my core, and then I would build out from there. So let's take a look at what we've brought in terms of in terms of crisis cards. So we've gone Guardian, Save Shi'ar, Empress in style. This is a pay to flip, but it's a pay to flip where our defenses do not matter. It's going to keep everybody in nice and close. So if we do want to try and steal something from them, it's going to work. And because we only roll 3 dice, we're not rolling dice equal to our X defense. It means that we have no more or less of an advantage than anybody else. Infinity Formula, these guys don't mind a B map. They've got some really good movement. We can go quite wide if we need to. And they don't mind the extra power. They've got lots of tactics cards and lots of superpowers that we want to be using. And then lastly, we've got Riot Sparks. I think with the characters that we've brought and chosen, we can handle a D map really, really well. And that damage removal is just going to keep us alive that little bit longer. And I do think, again, we've got some really good mobility, especially with some of the splash characters in the forms of Namor and Rhino, for example, and to some extent Miles as well. With that range 2 place, we can really get around the board very, very easily. We've then got Deadly Legacy Virus. Why have we brought Legacy Virus? Well, we've got a really nice team who can take these, and we've also got a Toad who can happily choose an allied character within 2 of this character, move 1 asset or civilian token the character is holding to this character. This character is now holding that token. So he can move these around without paying the extra tax on them for picking them up. and try and get a character that's holding all three, with a view that then we're going to score the 6 VPs, take that scoring opportunity off the board. And if you're scoring 6 VPs from Deadly Legacy Virus, you're probably winning the game. Fear Grips. Again, we've got lots of characters making lots of attacks. We can have a single character that holds multiple of them. There's no tax now. There hasn't been for a while, holding multiple of them. We've got characters like Rhino who can be in range and pick up the back point straight off. So yeah, pretty nice there. And then lastly, Montesi formula. We do not mind. We do not mind a Mystic Beam, because, well, guess what, guys? We've got very, very high Mystic defense, so we don't mind using that whatsoever. Worth noting that some of the cards that interact with Mystic attacks won't work on this, because it doesn't let you modify or add dice to your attack, but even so, still pretty darn good. Tactics cards. We've gone with the Bane of Dambalar. We've gone with Brace for Impact, Ironbound Books, Journey Through Limbo. That's a great card. Let's talk a little bit about Magic, because I think she's a really, really good character in this list. Nice mix of of short, mid, and long range attacks. She can move herself, but she can also move anybody else on the board. Spend 3, choose another character within 2, place it within 3. That can be your own, or it can be an opponent. So you can pull an opponent towards you and give them the Incinerate condition. So if that's somebody holding an objective, it's going to make it much, much easier to take them down. Or you can use this to get one of your own characters up the board. Dr. Voodoo, for example, is immune to Incinerate, so he's not going to be affected by the other part of that. Got the Plane of Poldark. This is going to allow us to re-roll all of our Mystic attacks against the character. Again, remember that the beam won't work with that. Prince's Protection. If you're bringing Namor, you bring Prince's Protection. We've got Sacrifice. I went with Sacrifice over Patch Up. This is because I do have characters, you know, like a Namor, like a Rhino, who are more capable at taking a bigger attack. However, this could be swapped out for Patch Up, for example, if you really wanted to, or even Indomitable. So you're stopping some more of those, at least character throws. But this is the one that I went with. Survival, again, I think it's another card that you could swap out. I think we could be in a situation where we go slightly wider than our opponent, especially on something like Riot Sparks. So I like the idea of using this to keep a lower threat character alive. Let's say that, you know, you've taken Miles with you because you're on Riot Sparks. Well, I don't mind dropping 3 power on Miles just to make sure we keep him alive, so we do get that activation with him. Because, you know, if he is targeted, he can go down quite quickly. Weirdly, especially to Mystic attacks. We've obviously then got the bar with no doors. And as you can see there, we've got the 2 sides of there. Realistically, I think you really want to be starting with Circle of the Cosmos, and that's probably what you remain on for the vast majority of the game. And then rounding it out, we've got This Is a Robbery. You know, it's the reason why we brought Rhino to the game. So we've got some of those, we've got that big steal that he can do with the throw off the back end of it as well. But yeah, lots to think about with Convocation, guys. Like I say, what I'd be looking at is, if I had priority and my opponent picks extracts, or picks my extracts or theirs, and there is a midline extract grab, you want to be making sure that you play into that. Now, we do have cards where there are multiple midline extract grabs, right? There are 4 midline extract grabs on, I think it's the one that's the Inhuman Weapon one. So in that case, then, you know, you really want to lean in and looking at it and going, okay, who do I need to bring? Because, you know, is it worth taking a Namor to get one of them 100% safe, or is it actually worth dropping Namor and going down a Toad and Lizard route? You know, Toad is going to be able to take it within range 2, so it's somewhat safe. Lizard might take a hit, but he's going to be able to bump back and get himself into safety so that he maybe doesn't take that second attack. and he's very unlikely to be taken down in a single attack anyway. So lots to think about. I think they're an interesting affiliation. I don't know, and I don't think Convocation are in the absolute best spot right now, but I do think that's because people have been trying to play them in the old styled way. But now you can't just take grunts and recycle that card. It doesn't really work. So I think you need to try something different. And I think as a control piece or as a control affiliation, they can work really, really well. There's a lot of displacement. There's a lot of steals. There's a lot of grabs that you can do within there. You know, we've added in some extra throws and pushes with some of the splash characters that we've taken. And I think combining all of that together, you can find an affiliation that does work quite well. Guys, I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Are you playing Convocation at the moment? Did you used to play them and you've not played them for a while? Let me know all your thoughts down in the comment section below. Guys, I want to give a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters and YouTube members. You guys really, really do help with the running of the channel. If you do want to support us, you can do so from as little as £1 a month. There'll be a link down in the description below. Patreon, and then just hit the YouTube join button to become a YouTube member. But as always, you don't need to do any of those things. Just simply liking, commenting, subscribing really, really does help and goes a long way to getting us towards that 10,000 subscriber mark, which is our next big goal that we are going for. So if you could hit that subscribe button, it would be greatly appreciated. Check out the Discord. Our March event is now on round 3, so we've got one more week left. And then we'll be doing our April Crisis event. We do an MCP event every single month. So if you want to take part in that, try out some of these new rosters, head then over to the Discord and you can find all of the details there. Big shout out to Leodis Games, the sponsor of the channel. You can find an offer down in the link in the description below. And as always, guys, it leaves me with just enough time to say stay well, keep safe, and until next time, bye for now.